The Hunger Games prequel stories we need. I dabbled into this topic a little bit in a previous video, but I really want to talk about those perspectives. Whose stories do we actually need? You guys had a lot of comments, and I'm here to address them. Just doing the Lord's work. What can I say? Well, hello there, my bookish besties. Welcome back to my channel. This is a really exciting time because I'm going to do my very first part 2 video on more Hunger Games prequels and universe stories that we need. My first video did so well and y'all had a lot of thoughts. So here I am to follow up on some of y'all's comments, some of y'all's thoughts, and dive into more so of those perspectives that we need for the next Hunger Games book. I've had so much fun growing this channel with you guys for the last couple months, and I have a goal to hit 500 subscribers by summer, and I need your help. Please go ahead, hit that subscribe button, and let's be actual friends. Let's be real friends, and let's yap, let's talk, let's chat. And now let's get down to business and talk even more Hunger Games. Go ahead, get all comfy, grab your blanket, grab your beveragino of choice. I need an energy drink today, guys. It's one of those days. And let's go ahead and let's get started. Spoiler warning. There'll be spoilers probably for all of the Hunger Games series, original trilogy, and the prequels that have been released. So please proceed with caution. I can't guarantee that anything out of my mouth is going to be safe. So just in case, if you haven't finished Sunrise and the Reaping or the other books yet, please save this video for later. Come back. We'll welcome you with open arms and we can always yap about it again. We got you. Safe space here. Safe space. So here's my condensed list, not finalized, big asterisk there, of Hunger Games perspectives and stories that we need in order to complete this Hunger Games universe. Let me start with my tidbit saying, truthfully, I just want one more prequel book. So why do I want one more prequel book? It's because we now have the Hunger Games series 1, 2, 3, and we have 2 prequel stories, one that covers the Rise of Snow and the 10th games. We also cover Haymitch's perspectives and the 50th games, and it feels like this second book added so much to the lore and the universe of the world that I want one more to wrap it up and tie it with a pretty bow. And now we have 2 distinct trilogy series. It's giving Star Wars prequels, how we had the middle first and then we had the prequels before. That's kind of what it's giving right now. I mean, that's just what I'm expecting as a consumer. Now, I did see someone's comment say, and I really, really liked it, so I'm going to say it, that this, by writing Haymitch's story, we have now completed our series of District 12 victors, which I think is a really interesting perspective to take, where we have, we see Katniss and Peeta, it follows them, and now we have Lucy Gray, and now we have Haymitch, and those are the only 4 people that have won the Hunger Games from District 12. So that's an interesting perspective, and I'm here for it, but I would still like more stories. So without further ado, let's kick start. And I'm going to start with this story that I need to complete my dream trilogy, this of the prequels, is this Capitol perspective. Long story short, we have someone who is in a district that's really gung-ho Capitol. It's a career district, 1, 2, 4. Maybe they volunteer, but they've been eaten up that Capitol propaganda. They completely believe the Capitol is in their best interest. They completely believe that the Hunger Games are for glory and they'll bring glory to their district and they'll go into the games and they'll win and they'll come back. I want that. Or even someone in the Capitol that again is eating up that sauce and they fully believe that what the Capitol is doing is for good. But we as the readers go through the journey told through their perspective of them having to unlearn every single thing that they just did. We as the readers have to unlearn it with them. I think that's going to be so important in media literacy. Suzanne Collins can really write a story where she just nails it right on the head and is so openly blank about propaganda in how you have to unlearn things and how it's hard and how it's painful and it's very uncomfortable to have to relearn something you've been told your entire life. That is such an important story we need. Now the question is, whose perspective is it from? And here's my list. I have my computer out because I'm a notes girly. In a previous video, I said Finnick. Someone also said Finnick in the comments. Like, this would be a really, really interesting story. And the only way I will accept a Finnick game will be if it's told this way. There's a lot of other awful things that happened to Finnick that I, as a reader, would not be comfortable reading, especially at such a young age. But is it needed? I don't know. I've also seen Annie. I have a different perspective of what I want for Annie's games, and we'll get to that later in this video, but it could be a unique perspective for Annie. Effie. We know going through, Effie had to do that herself. She had to go through that mindset. She had to recontextualize everything around her. What happened to her between Catching Fire and the end of Mockingjay, because we don't see her. Spoiler alert for the people who've seen the movies, she's not in 13. She stays in the Capitol. She randomly pops up at the end of Mockingjay, and you're like, Girly Pop, where you been? We don't know where you've been. It's kind of crazy. So where was she? Was she in the Capitol and finally seeing the truth and having to go through this process by herself? Because by the end, she is like Team Rebel, you know? So I'd love to see her transformation through this. Plutarch. I'd love to see Plutarch's mindset, because he was raised in a very, very distinct Capitol family. Lots and lots of wealth around him. But you know what was also all around him? Books. He had books, he had literature, he was being able to read from different perspectives, he was able to get that media literacy, he was able to tell propaganda from not so well, he's able to manipulate propaganda, he's able to create propaganda. And along with that, he created Plutarch's Underground. How did that work? How did that happen? I'll go into this more in a second, but let's get the brains turning. We get a little bit of this mindset from Katniss's perspective in the first book when it comes to Cato. Cato has this whole moment where he's like, what is this all for? This is none of the glory that I was promised. Like, what else am I supposed to do? I'm here to bring honor to my district. And we see him from Katniss's perspective go through it. But what was that like in Cato's mind? I think that is such an important story to tell. And we could also get that from a random unnamed tribute that we don't know. We do not have to go into an existing tribute to tell the story, an existing character to tell the story. I think it would be really awesome, and my preferred was to go into a character and add more depth to them, but it's not a requirement. In order to get the mindset of someone who at the core is Team Capitol and then somehow, some way becomes anti-Capitol, and we are along for the ride. That's my number one story that I want to be told. But let's go into some other prequels, some other perspectives, some other POVs and Hunger Games stories that we need. Well, maybe not need, maybe just will enhance the world that Suzanne has built. Like I said, Plutarch's Underground. How did Plutarch get started? Who else was involved in Plutarch's Underground? How did it work? What was that network like? It would be really interesting to see characters that we know in Plutarch's Underground. I'm sure Tigress was there. I've heard a lot of people say they want a Tigress book. They want this from her perspective. I'm not 100% like gung-ho, like we need a Tigress book. If Suzanne gives it to us, I am not going to complain. I will say thank you, Mom, and I will take it and I will pay money for it and I will give her money. The very limited that I do have, but I will. But I 100% we know she's part of Plutarch's Underground because Cressida came in and said, hey, Tigress, we're with Plutarch's Underground. They knew each other from there, or at least were part of the same organization. So how did that work? I'm thinking trying to connect this with other instances in pop culture. I'm thinking like Last of Us, if you guys have either played the video game or are watching the show on HBO. There's the Fireflies that are working under Fedra. And that's kind of how I imagine Plutarch's Underground working. Something that starts underneath the larger, Capitol's eye. Anyway, wouldn't it be interesting to see like Cressida get her start there? Wouldn't it be interesting if people like what if Claudius Templesmith was in Plutarch's Underground? Can you imagine? She could really do one of those like mic drop moments and like showcase people we had no idea were on Team Rebellion in this, and it would just change everything we knew about the world in general and how many people were maybe actually really upset at the games and really upset about President Stowe's presidency. Anyway, rabbit hole, I could keep going down, but let's move on to the next one. Actually, no, before we move on to the next one, how did Plutarch get in touch with District 13? How did that relationship form? How did he meet them? How did he know them? How did that coordination happen? Which now leads me into my next point, which is, what is the history of District 13? We know very, very little. Honestly, when we get to Catching Fire, it's kind of like randomly introduced everywhere to the point where the reader like this, I guess, has to be kind of a big deal. Otherwise, why are we talking about it so much? But what's the history there? We know that they led the rebellion in the Dark Days. We know that they lost. We know that they had a pandemic that pretty much killed everyone there. But how did they rebuild? How did that structure work? How did coin get to power? These are all questions that a book dedicated to 13 would answer. Now, me as a reader, I really just kind of got bored in Mockingjay when we talked about District 13. I'll be so real, because it's very militaristic, and like that's not as engaging to me as more politics are. But I think it would still be a really interesting story and something that would connect the whole world together. Because right now, District 13 is like on this outlier island of like what is happening. How do you connect and how do you correlate? Speaking of that original war, the Dark Days. What happened in the Dark Days to spark that, initial flame? I talked about this a little bit before, but I still think it's important to get that story and what happened and what led to those very first games. And the Dark Days story can connect to the very first Hunger Games stories. How was the Capitol treating the districts any differently? Did they have a different form of control? Were they still using hunger? Were they still separated as the 12? Were there any other fear tactics that they were using to hinder their control that made 13 rebel? So many questions. And I saw someone in my comments, and I really, really loved this. I mean, I say I loved, it's really dramatic. Having the story be told from someone's perspective who either is an Avox or becomes an Avox, which is so tragic. Like, imagine the story being told from someone from the perspective of a rebel living in the Capitol. The Capitol wins, they get caught, and they get turned into an Avox. Like, that's their end. Is they're just a slave for the rest of their lives. Like, I don't think I could do it because that would be too heartbreaking, but dang, would that not be so powerful? And another obvious answer is going to be those 25th Quarter Quell games. What happened in those games? We now have the 10th, we have the 50th, we have the 74th and 75th, technically kind of also the 76th. But what happened in the 25th? In my research and in my rereads, we don't know anything about who won the 25th games. Was there a winner of the 25th games? We know the 25th games was the games, the Quell, if you will, where the districts had to vote on the tributes to go in, which is a different kind of horror, knowing that your entire district voted you to go basically die. Absolute insanity. But what happened in those games? Because we've gotten a lot of insight on multiple different games now where we see implicit sabotage that the Capitol covers up, and we see a lot of this, what's the word I'm looking for? Not inconsistency. We see a lot of the Capitol's overall incompetence when it comes to handling the tributes and handling the districts. And with the more books we get, the more that comes to light, and the Capitol's just really good at covering up. So what did they cover up in the 25th games? Okay, 2 POVs that I think would be really, really important and really vital, and you guys are blowing up my comment section about it. So you know what? Let's talk about it. Annie. Annie's story, Annie's book, After Sunrise on the Reaping. Whew. I've got thoughts. I was always sketched out about the earthquake that caused the dam to break, that caused the arena to flood. Because my question that I asked even before Sunrise, I had just finished my reread, thinking, was that Capitol made? And if it was Capitol made, why would the Capitol purposely break their dam in order for someone, probably most likely from 4, to win? And there's 2 options there if the Capitol actually did willingly break the dam. And it's 1, maybe they thought more people could swim and they didn't realize that District 4 was going to win. Or 2, for whatever reason, they wanted Annie to win. None of those made sense to me. None of those. There's a lot more ways to create drama and chaos in the arena than breaking the dam. Now, my second theory at the time, this is before Sunrise, was that maybe there was an actual earthquake. Maybe there was an actual earthquake that broke the actual dam in the arena and flooded the arena, and Annie won by complete accident. We don't know. But now, after Sunrise, I have a third option, breaking the arena. She did exactly what Haymitch set out to do, and who knows, maybe every year they have a tribute trying to go in and sabotage the arena. And Annie attempted, and she was successful in flooding it. She didn't necessarily break the arena to the point that the games were over. She broke it to the point that she won and she completely flooded it. But what if it was a rebellious act? Then furthermore, connecting over to Catching Fire in what we call present day, There's a theory going around that each of the time areas in that clock arena were designated for a very specific tribute. Tributes that were going to go in, or victors that were going to go into the arena. And we see the tidal wave at the 10 o'clock hour. Everyone speculates that wave was for Annie. A reminder of maybe what she did, not just how she won the games and like re-trauma. Maybe it was a reminder of what she did. This is a random thought, but I'm going to say it here because I have literally nowhere else to say it. But going off the fact that what we know about Annie's games is that she disappeared in the beginning. She went on her own and she kind of reappeared when the wave came. So her disappearing, is that just the Capitol not showing her rebellious activity that caused the wave? Furthermore, in the 74th games, what was Thrush doing in the meadow? We don't know. We never see what Thrush is doing in the meadow. But apparently he looks stronger and better when Katniss sees him. Did he find out a hack somewhere? Was he doing his own thing? We know that District 11 has been rebelling the longest, as far as compared to like 12, who's kind of just like there. Though we do apparently have an altercation between Thrush and Cato in the books, but it's never confirmed. That's the kicker, is that Thrush is never confirmed. We never see what he's doing. He's just off on his own. Anyway, just some thoughts. Wrapping it up finally, because again, we're talking about that rebellion activity, the rebellion. Johanna's story. Johanna, Haymitch, and Katniss are three sides of the same coin. And I know that that's not a good analogy, but I can't explain it otherwise. That all these three characters, they are not really likable. Well, Haymitch is, but Katniss and Johanna are not. They are not likable people. They need to have someone else kind of coerce them into being likable. Haymitch says that he needed someone with his same gusto, his same balls to do what he did with just better timing or better luck. He didn't get that. Katniss had that. But I'm sure in those 24 years in between Haymitch and Katniss, there were multiple other attempts. That's where we get Annie. That's where we get Johanna. We know that Johanna doesn't have any family left. There's no one left that she loves because Snow took them all away, very similar to Haymitch, which is what makes me think that she did something in her games as well to really upset the Capitol and rally up the districts, but it didn't work. Why? Johanna didn't have a Peeta. Johanna didn't have someone there to make people like her, to make her likable. If Katniss didn't have Peeta there, essentially hyping her up, and making her look desirable and making her look lovable, Katniss wouldn't have been successful. It was both of them paired together that was the spark that launched the rebellion at that point. The luck Haymitch was missing was a partner. It was someone at his side making him likable, but at the same time it was timing, because the districts needed more time to like be upset about things, of course. But that's the difference between Katniss and Johanna's being successful, because they're both so not likable. They're both so much stick in the muds. You really see that when they're roommates in Mockingjay, that their personalities just like clash and they act so much like sisters because they're so alike. Johanna just needed someone to bring her back down to earth. Anyway, those are the perspectives that I need to see in future books that you guys in my comment sections were going ham about. And guys, I'm 100% with you. Are there any more POVs that I didn't discuss? Any other stories or any other inklings and parts of this universe? There are so many theories, so many things that are unconfirmed, and just so many answers that I need. And I think Summers on the Reaping left me with more questions than I have answers at this point. And I'm just a little spiral like this. But as always, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in and checking out the page and the channel. Please go ahead and like, comment, subscribe to my hello. Please go ahead and like, comment on my video. Let me know, again, if there's any other thoughts that you guys had around these. I can maybe do a part 3. I'm sure I have enough to say at this point. And subscribe to my channel. It would mean so much to me if you guys did. And again, I'm trying to hit that 500 subs by summer. What a way to celebrate. I am working on some really new fun stuff for you guys. Let me know if there's any topics, any books, any series you guys want me to dive into in the comments below. I got you guys. We will keep yapping. Just let me know what you guys wanted me to yap about, essentially. Well, as always, guys, you know the drill. Happy reading.